Hello and welcome to Philosophy Vibe, the channel where we discuss and debate different philosophical ideas. Today we're going to focus on the philosophy of economics and discuss the ideas around cost-benefit analysis and if economics is in fact running off of an unethical framework. Interesting. Now, when we make any sort of decision, one will adopt a cost-benefit analysis. We consider a type of action, we look at what it will cost us, we look at the benefits that it brings, and if the benefits outweigh the costs, we tend to adopt the action. Economists use the exact same method, and through their calculations, it goes on to affect policies adopted by national governments as well as international organizations. At first glance, this seems fair. If an economist calculates a policy that brings more benefit than cost to a particular country or region or across the world, then this would be the correct policy to adopt. However, recently, Carneades has released a book, Are All Lives Equal?, which in fact argues that economists are working off of an unethical framework. The cost-benefit analysis values some lives more than others, and we're in a situation at the moment where an economist using cost-benefit analysis would favour saving a few hundred rich people's lives over thousands and thousands of poor people's lives. Using any ethical reasoning, we can see that this is wrong, yet cost-benefit analysis in our current climate favours this. In this video, we will discuss how cost-benefit analysis values rich lives more, and a potential philosophical solution to this economic problem that has been put forward by Carneades.org in their latest book. Okay, so to me, cost-benefit analysis seems perfectly fair. It loosely follows a utilitarian perspective, the greatest good for the greatest number, so if there is more benefit than cost, this would be a policy to adopt. How then can hundreds of lives outweigh thousands of lives under this model? Interesting question. The short answer is because the value of lives are linked to a monetary value. There is a dollar value on every person's life. Carneades explains that the International Panel of Climate Change estimates that the lives of individuals in poor countries are worth around $100,000, those in middle-income countries are worth around $700,000, and those in high-income countries are worth $1.5 million. Now, cost-benefit analysis does not calculate life versus a life, but it calculates the value of the life versus the value of the life. Right. So here's a hypothetical scenario. Say we need to dump barrels of toxic waste. Wherever we dump this waste, the people of that country will die. We have a choice of two countries where we can dump the waste. Country A, with a population of 20,000 people, or country B, with a population of 2,000 people. What would be the ethical choice? To dump the waste on country B. Although it's very sad, you are sacrificing 2,000 people, but you are saving 20,000 people, so the cost of 2,000 versus the benefit of 20,000. You would think so. However, let's now say country A is a poor income country and country B is a high income country. Cost-benefit analysis looks at the value of the statistical lives, not the amount of lives. So, in country A, a poor country, the value of a statistical life is $100,000. In country B, however, the value of the statistical life is $1.5 million per person. So, for 2,000 people, the total value is now $3 billion. Even though country B is 10% the population of country A, it is far, far wealthier. The value of each life is worth more. So economists using cost-benefit analysis would say that they are obligated to dump the toxic waste on country A. Even though 20,000 people will die, economists say 20,000 poor people are worth much, much less than 2,000 rich people. This is how cost-benefit analysis is seen as an unethical framework that economists use. Right, so how exactly have economists come up with the amount each lives are worth in rich and poor countries? Great question. In order to determine the value of statistical lives, economists use a concept called willingness to pay. It is a method which determines the average of how much people in a specific country would be willing to pay to reduce the average number of deaths by one. Here is an example from the Environmental Protection Agency. We go to different countries and take a sample of 100,000 people per country and we ask them, how much would they be willing to pay for a reduction in their risk of dying by 1 in 100,000 over the next year? So, from each specific group, how much is it worth for one fewer deaths over the year? Not a specific person, but statistically. You take the average amount each group would pay, and that is how much a statistical life is worth. So, say a 100,000 group sample from one country would be willing to pay on average $100 each to reduce the risk of dying by 1 in 100,000. $100 times 100,000 people, the value of the statistical life is then $10 million. However, in another country, the average amount in the sample was only $20 per person. So $20 times 100,000 people, the value of the statistical life in that country is only $2 million. So that is how the value of statistical lives is calculated. I see. So effectively, if you are willing to pay more, you value life more, and so your life is more valuable. That makes sense. Yes, but there is a big problem with these calculations around willingness to pay. What's that? Your willingness to pay is completely determined by your ability to pay. What do you mean? If you are filthy rich and you are asked, how much would you pay to reduce your chance of death by 0.01%, you could say $500 because you have so much money. But if you are poor and you have very little money, you may say $5 because that's all you can afford. But as far as the economists are concerned, you're willing to pay less, so your life is worth less. But in reality, your willingness to pay less is because of your inability to pay more. You do not have the income to pay more. So this is how we come to value rich and poor countries, and this is how a rich person's life is valued more. Carneades points out that using the value of statistical lives, saving one American's life is worth 16 Indonesian lives, 40 Mauritius lives, and 166 Malawian lives. In a powerful example, Carneades explains how the value of a statistical life in America is 9,631,000, where in Gambia it is only 79,000. Now, imagine this hypothetical scenario by Carneades. Imagine two deadly diseases have hit the world, one affecting only Americans and another affecting only Gambians. They kill in exactly the same way, but they kill at different rates. In America, your risk of mortality from this disease is 0.003%. It will kill 10,815 people. In Gambia, your risk of mortality from the disease is 50%. It will kill 1,050,284 people. You only have enough funding to cure one of the diseases. As a public official, you are bound to take the course of action that will maximize benefits to the world. Saving the life of 10,815 Americans is worth $104 billion. Saving the lives of the Gambians is worth $83 billion. You are morally obligated to cure the American disease to maximize benefits. I think most people's intuitions would be to save the 1 million Gambians, but the economic model used would save the Americans only because their statistical lives are worth more, but they are only worth more because they are a richer country. Poorer countries would pay more to reduce their mortality if they had more. It is not willingness to pay, but ability to pay. It is not that poorer countries value their lives less, it is just that they cannot afford to pay more. As such, economists value the lives of richer people over the lives of the poor. If you are rich, your life is worth more. End of story. This is the model we have under the current cost-benefit analysis, the willingness to pay model. Very interesting. So this is an economic problem that carries a moral problem. So are there any philosophical solutions to this? Well, In the book, Are All Lives Equal?, Carneades does in fact propose a solution to this problem. In short, rather than economists focusing on the absolute willingness to pay, Carneades argues that they should in fact focus on the percentage willingness to pay. What does that mean? Let's go back to the mortality reduction between the poor person and the rich person. We asked each how much they would be willing to pay to reduce the statistical chance of death by 0.01%. The rich person, let's say, has $1 million in the bank, and the poor person only has $100 in the bank. The rich person's absolute willingness to pay cannot be more than $1 million because that's the maximum he has, whereas the poor person's absolute willingness to pay cannot be more than $100 because that is the maximum he has. We then saw the rich person offered $500 and the poor person offered $5. Under absolute willingness to pay, the rich person is valued higher. However, under percentage willingness to pay, this completely changes. The poor person was willing to give 5% of their total wealth for a 0.01% reduction in mortality. For the rich person, this would have been equivalent to $50,000, but the rich person only offered $500. So using this model, we can determine those who value life, but the value is in proportion to their ability. If the poor person only offered 1 cent and the rich person offered $10,000, then the percentage willingness to pay would value the life of the rich person. But it shouldn't be down to the amount each person is willing to pay, but the percentage of their total wealth. This becomes the fairest model in valuing life and giving poorer people a chance for economists and politicians to value their lives as much as richer people. Fascinating. This does seem like philosophy coming in to save the ethical downfalls of economics. However, philosophers do have a tendency to overthink and get carried away with hypothetical ethical dilemmas. I don't really think economists use the value of statistical lives to determine who lives and who dies. This is about comparing projects and policies and how they would work in richer countries over poorer countries. It is not about toxic wastes and plagues and other dramatical ideas. Furthermore, not every policy is geared towards what would benefit the poor. Sometimes policies are made for greater good, be it for a city as a whole, or a country as a whole, or the global environment. The percentage willingness to pay is too fixated on the poorest of society, when not every decision has to bear this in mind. Good points. This and a number of other objections are all addressed in the Carneades.org book, Are All Lives Equal? Why Cost-Benefit Analysis Values Rich Lives More and How Philosophy Can Fix It. If you enjoyed this discussion, we suggest you check out the book available on Amazon. This book goes deeper into the economics of valuing statistical lives and the willingness to pay model. There are a number of hypothetical scenarios to help explain, as well as real-world examples of these policies in action. The philosophical solution proposed by Carneades is definitely one people should ponder. Links to the book are below. But that's all the time we have for now. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed the vibe. If you did, please like and share. And for more philosophical debates, please subscribe to the channel. Take care. Until next time.